Fix and flips can be one of the most exciting and profitable strategies in real estate investing. However, it doesn't come without risk and can certainly have disastrous results. In this video, we're going to talk about fix and flips. We're going to talk about how you need a strategy, and I'm going to talk about the steps that you're going to go through to develop a good plan to make sure your next flip is a profitable one.
So a hard money loan is really just a bridge loan. It's really just a bridge loan from a private lender, an unregulated lender. So what are the benefits of hard money loans? Why do investors, first-time flippers, all the way to investors with thousands of units? So I've closed over $1 billion in hard money loans, and I can assure you one thing, not every project qualifies for hard money.
So I always say that the most successful flippers are the ones that have control of the biggest cost associated with the flip, right? And that's A, making sure that you are buying it right, understanding the market, you are controlling the cost to sell, and you understand how to transact, and that's being a real estate agent, right? You have access to MLS, you should be in the nitty-gritty of the market, you should know exactly what's selling in the marketplace at all times, and you should be able to identify very quickly when a property hits the market, whether it's a good deal or not. With a contractor, right, as a partner, you obviously can control the construction costs. You can call up your contractor on a whim and say, hey, I need you to meet me at a showing to see a property. I think it's a good flip opportunity. And you can have a back of the napkin renovation budget coupled with a really good idea of what the property should sell for, which ultimately will give you an idea of what you should pay, right? So with flips, I'm going to talk about it a lot. You're always reverse engineering the numbers, and being able to do that means you have real strong skill sets in both being a real estate agent and understanding the market, being able to control costs on the buy and on the sell in terms of commissions, and then ultimately being able to partner or be a contractor, to be able to control the renovation timeline, to control the costs, to know the pitfalls going in on a potential flip. And I think the combination of those two, a real estate agent and a contractor, are the absolute best partners for a fix and flip to maximize profitability, for sure. What's your biggest challenge when it comes to fix and flips? Let me know in the comments, and in the next episode, I might just answer your question. Okay, so here's the deal, right? Everybody loves to watch the hot couple on HGTV flip a house in 30 days and make $75,000 in profit. But the reality is there's a ton of risk in fix and flips. There are a ton of landmines, and it can start with just overpaying for a property. Renovations can get out of hand, take longer, cost more. I mean, there are so many different ways that a fix and flip can go wrong. And I know, I've been there. I've gone through a lot of issues and dealt with them, and not all issues are completely avoidable. But I can tell you that these mistakes can be minimized. The risk can be minimized if you know how to approach each and every aspect of your flip and you plan for it ahead. And in this video, we're going to talk more and more about taking the right steps to plan ahead for your fix and flip. So I've been through the trenches. I've put my 10,000 hours in, I feel, when it comes to fix and flips. I've personally overseen over 100 single-family renovations. I've done over 400 apartment units. I've financed hundreds of projects and countless borrowers. And I've seen borrowers go from their first fix and flip to 30 million in real estate. So today I'm sharing my tried and true blueprint for completing a successful fix and flip. So first and foremost, as an investor, you need to make sure that you're buying the property right. I mean, that is the number one rule, is to buy right. And obviously buy low. And the only way that you can know you're buying low or at or below market value for that particular property is by intimately understanding the market, is to know each and every sale. And that means you need to work with a real estate agent or be one yourself, but you need access to all the data. You need Zillow, you need MLS, you need the assessor's websites, you need all of the data in front of you so that you know the exact price per foot. You know the type of renovation required to sell these houses at the market price that you think these houses should be trading for. But the bottom line is that you need to understand the market, understand the data, and you need to be able to step in and make a move, offer exactly what you know a property is worth when it hits the market. And that's going to give you the best chance to compete in a tight market. But in any market, no matter what market, and I'm talking the depths of the financial crisis, the height of let's call it housing values, post-COVID, there's always a deal in every market, but you just need to understand the market first before you can know that it's a deal. The first and most important aspect of real estate investing is to buy right. I found my first flip on Craigslist for sale by owner. Please share below where you find your properties to flip. Underestimating renovation costs is absolutely the fastest way to destroy profits in a fix and flip. It's incredibly important for you to have a deep understanding of construction and all the different components of a renovation. And that might mean that you need to bring your contractor through, somebody that you trust. It might mean that you bring two contractors through. It might mean that you go through several projects with contractors, talk to a fellow real estate investor who might give you the opportunity to go into their fix and flip and to look at their budgets, to understand what things are costing so that you can then go out and really quickly come together with a framework of a budget so that you can see whether an investment makes sense. But ultimately, know that if you go ahead and make that investment, that you're going to be within budget so that you can, maintain or maximize profitability. So the fact of the matter is what I tell investors, is to surround yourself with contractors who are not only going to be important to understanding the costs associated with a particular renovation, because every property is different, but they're also going to be the ones controlling your timeline. They're also going to be the ones that have access to subs that are going to be incredibly important to making sure that you hit your different timeframes and keep your flip at its maximum profitability, right? Because as time goes on, you're paying more in debt service, obviously more cost to carry, which hurts your profitability. So you have to have the right team in place. You have to have contractors around you that you trust, that you can rely on, and gain the knowledge to at least be able to go in through the desktop underwriting, look at a deal, understand what it might mean, and then be able to go in and make offers aggressively to purchase, knowing that you can operate generally within the framework of that budget, and that the line items in between might change, but at the end, you're going to be able to execute on that investment. That takes a lot of confidence in your contractors. It takes experience, I know first. And so sometimes what I would say is when you're dipping your toe in as a first timer, you want to start with a cosmetic rehab. You don't want to go into a heavy rehab, a gut reno. You want to keep it simple. You want to minimize your risk. And that's going to be the key, right? You got to know who you are and take on the projects you feel that you can execute on. New experienced flippers, stick with the cosmetic. If you're a contractor, you have the ability to step into higher risk projects, gut rehabs right away. So that's really important. The other thing is I tell borrowers on the debt side that you need to make sure that you build in your own contingency, that if you're looking for a renovation to cost $100,000 and that's your target, you're sending me as a lender a budget of $110,000 to $120,000. So 10 to 20% contingency is prudent. It protects you as an investor. It helps because it keeps the project liquid in case there are overruns. And ultimately, as always, I want you to go into projects, expecting issues, to looking at everything from the downside scenario. And if the project goes through faster, it costs less, then it's just going to lead to more profit in the end. But at least you understand the risks and you're covering your downside so that you're not ultimately losing in the end. That in the end, you might have less profitability. It might not be a home run. It could be a double or a single, but you've limited your downside risk. And that's really super important when it comes to being a successful flipper. What's one of the renovation costs that caught you off guard on one of your recent projects? Leave it in the comments and let's compare notes. So one of the common themes you'll hear me speak about when it comes to fix and flips is that you should always be reverse engineering. And that can mean the process, that can mean the numbers, that can mean the timeline. You're always looking at the future and working backwards. You're saying, okay, I can afford a certain property type. So let's say I'm going to stick with single family first time home buyers. And I'm going to deliver a product that in the end meets exactly what's required to sell a property at a certain price in 30 days. And that's how you're going to start, right? So you're going to start at the end. You're going to say, okay, what am I going to sell it for? Okay, well then you need to know what the product is like we talked about. And then that's where you start to to understand what you can pay for these properties, right? So you have to intimately know what the renovation costs are to get the property into said condition that will ultimately allow it to sell. But you also have to do all that due diligence. You have to do all the due diligence on the market. You have to do all the due diligence on what renovations cost. And then ultimately, you have to be prepared to execute. That means that you have to also have the capital. And that's where hard money comes in. That's where companies like asset-based lending come in, where our capital is aligned in that way of thinking, right? We're a lender. We're looking at the ability for you to execute the project, certainly. And we've talked about experience when it comes to loan sizing and pricing in other videos. But let's assume experience is there and matches the strategy, right? We're going to be looking at the after repair value of the asset. We're going to be saying, okay, what is the property worth? And we're going to be looking at it the same way you are. But you're going to have to anticipate that. Just like you're going to have to know what the property is going to sell for, what the renovation is going to cost. You're going to have to know what your lender is going to expect from you. You're going to have to make sure that you have the ability to meet those conditions. Ultimately, that's just why hard money is so well suited for the fix and flip business, right? Because we know that all of that reverse engineering of that process, that timeline has to happen quickly. And it doesn't just start with understanding whether a fix and flip property is a good opportunity or not, whether it's profitable or not. It then means that you need to understand what your lender expects, how the lender is going to size, what's expected of you in terms of your conditions, what kind of credit do you need, what kind of liquidity do you need to be able to satisfy that particular investment. And that's one of the final steps, I would say, anticipating, call it reverse engineering, is that understanding where your lender is and how they look at the deals and what they need to be able to come to the table and execute, not just the closing time frame, but ultimately get you through the construction of the project. And again, that's where hard money comes in. That's where asset-based lending comes in. Companies like ours, we're really focused on these fix and flips. We're specializing in these, what I would call high touch loans, and these fast moving high touch loans, where the goal is for you to be able to buy right, which means you need to move quickly. And we understand that. You need to be able to perform the renovation and get the property sold in the appropriate amount of time to meet your guidelines. We know that. That's why we have a very efficient draw process. And ultimately, I think over the last 10 years, hard money, private credit has really boxed out banking. I think mostly early on because of overregulation, but even as banks started to step in and do some of this type of financing, we know bankers are fat cats. They don't want to work very hard. And at the end of the day, these high touch loans just aren't really well suited for a bank execution. You don't want to have to go through a financial proctology exam with a bank in order to figure out whether they're willing to fund your deal. You only have a day or two to figure that out, right? You're closing on a fix and flip potentially in 2 weeks. Hard money has really come in, filled the void as a real fast, efficient way for investors to come in, buy a property, ultimately renovate it, because they don't need those long-term conventional loans to execute a 4 to 6 month strategy. Don't be deterred by high rates when it comes to hard money. You're only having these loans out for 4 to 6 months. If you're being charged 12% by your lender and that gives you the ability to execute, well, that's a point of interest a month. That's 4 points of interest, 4 to 6 points of interest. That's not unlike bank interest requirements when you aggregate it. When you look at the opportunity cost to go in and buy a property backed by a lender that can execute and facilitate transactions. So ultimately, I would say after the financial crisis, private credit has really stepped up to fill a void that countless investors are relying on to not only fund their fix and flips, but to scale their businesses and grow. And I've seen borrowers go from their first fix and flip to $30 million in real estate. And it's exciting to watch. And they could have only done that using hard money. Have you used banks and hard money lenders to fund your past fix and flips? If so, share your story down below. I'd love to hear the pros and cons in your mind as to why you prefer one over the other. So let's say you're in the Northeast, right, and you're trying to time the spring market. You're buying a property in December and you're looking to put it on the market in May. That requires a tight timeline. And the reality is that timeline being met is completely up to your ability to manage a renovation and make sure that you're hitting certain milestones. So like everything else we talked about, when it comes to flipping, you have to think in reverse, right? You have to work closely with your contractors to understand what they need to be able to keep them on the job, to be able to get get through different phases of construction, right? You obviously need to be out buying materials and finished plumbing, electrical fixtures, etc. Ahead of the electrician or plumber finishing their rough-ins. You need to understand the timeline of a renovation budget. You need to make sure that you're out ahead of permitting, and that once you get your contractors on the job, that they stay there and they're moving through the project as efficiently as possible. If you haven't done a fix and flip and you're looking to get into it, I highly recommend a general contractor to be able to manage the timeline and to make sure that you hit those milestones, because you can certainly spend a lot more money in overruns, let's call it carrying costs, through extended timelines by not having a general contractor in place, at least for the first few. So extremely important that you keep your project moving, you keep it on time and on budget, and to make sure that you intimately understand the nuances of the renovation from permitting through to their certificate of occupancy is crucial, obviously. And then the second phase is going to be to make sure that you have that contractor in place that has the resources with subs that can keep them there, keep that project on time and on budget. Because more importantly than anything else, you're looking at timing that spring market in this case and putting the property on the market with its highest potential for sale value. You want to make sure that you're timing it right. So back to the reverse engineering, if you can manage through renovation timeline in an efficient manner, I think it absolutely is going to mean great success for you in the fix and flip space for sure. And make sure, again, you surround yourself with good people, good contractors that are aligned and have the resources to execute the strategy, and you'll be super successful as a flipper for sure. So once your renovation is complete, now it's time to put it on the market. And we want to put it on the market so that it can be sold quickly and at max price or some balance thereof. You don't want to go into a situation where you're asking so much the property sits on the market. And if the property sells in a day, when the average house in the market sells in 30, you're going to be left scratching your head. So you really need to make sure that you partner with a really good real estate agent that understands the market. And like we talked about, they should be in the process right up front, right? That agent knows what you're looking to do, knows the strategy that you're looking to execute. They're coming in and they're helping you understand the market by providing access to MLS data, and they're going to own the project because you're going to buy it theoretically based on their recommendation or partly to do with their advice. So you're going to go in, execute the strategy, and you're going to hand the property back to them saying it's now time to sell. And you're going to want to make sure that agent is very experienced. I know we all have aunts and uncles and sisters and brothers that are real estate agents. You want to partner with somebody that actually knows the market, that has the sales, that can sell and understands your vision and can help you along the way. And this doesn't just mean, helping with the paperwork, sticking a sign in the ground, opening the door, letting people sign a list, on the kitchen counter. You need a professional. And I think that if you find the right professional, you'll have a real lot of respect for real estate agents in general, and they will help you become more successful as a result. And I've worked with some great real estate agents in the past, and they definitely serve a huge purpose. It allows you to transact with buyers and sellers with somebody that's looking out for your best interest, that understands the paperwork, the process, and ultimately will be with you from start to finish through the project. If you have a unique property in any way, you definitely should consider staging. And I mean, you can stage anything. Like as an example, I've staged a backyard with a play set. I had a 60s Porsche brought into a renovation I did on a seaside development to show that the garage fit a nice sports car, and it lent itself to the price point because the house was selling for $1.2 million. So I like to say, if you have a unique situation where maybe the space is too big or too small or unique in any way, consider staging your property. It will help paint a picture for the buyer, and it might just help your house sell faster and maybe even for more money. So now that you know the blueprint, it's time to take action. Let me know what your goals are for real estate investing. Let me know if you have any questions. Leave comments, and as always, please subscribe. And if you like the comment, we're going to have more videos coming up on how to scale your portfolio. I'd like to thank Asset-Based Lending. Asset-Based Lending has great programs for fix and flips, both 0-point programs and rate and point programs, and we always fund 100% of construction. So thanks for watching, guys, and I look forward to the next one.